The afternoon began like any other, with the sun sitting low and warm over a small roadside area where people often passed through without much thought. Cars slowed near a wide dirt patch beside the road, where rainwater had collected into shallow puddles. Dust mixed with wet soil, leaving the ground uneven and messy. It was the kind of place people hardly noticed unless something went wrong. A young black girl walked along the edge of the road, her backpack resting lightly on one shoulder. She had just finished a long day and wanted nothing more than to get home. Her steps were calm, steady, and quiet. She wasn't in a rush, but she wasn't lingering either. Her mind was busy with ordinary thoughts, homework, messages waiting on her phone, and what she might eat later. To her, this was just another normal day. Nearby, a small group of teenagers stood close to the dirt lot, laughing loudly. They had nothing planned and nowhere important to be. One of them, a boy known in the area for causing trouble, enjoyed being the center of attention. He talked louder than everyone else, making jokes that often crossed the line. His friends laughed, not always because the jokes were funny, but because they didn't want to be the next target. The boy's eyes scanned the area, searching for something or someone to react to. When he noticed the girl walking by, his expression changed. He smirked, nudging one of his friends and whispering something that made them snicker. The girl did not look at them. She kept walking, unaware that she had already been chosen as a source of entertainment. The road was busy enough that no one paid close attention. A few adults stood nearby, checking their phones or talking quietly. A motorcycle was parked off to the side, its rider standing close by, helmet resting on the seat. He looked calm and distant, as if the noise around him barely mattered. The girl stepped closer to the muddy area to avoid traffic. Her shoes pressed into damp soil, leaving small prints behind. She adjusted her bag and kept her head forward. She had learned over time that ignoring comments was often the safest way to get through moments like this. Behind her, the boy's voice grew louder. He made a comment meant to draw attention, hoping for laughs. His friends shifted, some looking uncomfortable, others still amused. The girl heard the noise, but chose not to respond. That only encouraged him more. He glanced down at the ground, noticing the thick mud left behind by the rain. An idea sparked in his mind, careless and cruel. He bent down, scooping a handful of wet dirt. The mud clung to his fingers, dark and heavy. His friends watched, unsure if he would really do it. The girl was only a few steps ahead now. She felt something was off, but didn't know why. Before she could turn around, the boy shouted a mocking comment, his voice sharp and loud. The words cut through the air, drawing the attention of several people nearby. In the same moment, his arm swung forward. The mud left his hand, flying in an uneven arc. Time seemed to slow as it traveled through the air. The boy expected laughter. He expected shock. He expected control. What he didn't expect was how much he had missed. The mud did hit the girl, splashing against her clothes and backpack. But it didn't stop there. The clump broke apart, spreading farther than he planned. Some of it landed beyond her, splattering against metal and leather. A sudden silence followed. The girl froze, her body stiff with surprise. She looked down at herself, confused and hurt, trying to understand what had just happened. Her heart raced. Embarrassment washed over her, mixed with fear. She had done nothing to deserve this. Around her, people stopped moving. Conversations paused. A few gasps were heard. The boy's laughter faded as he realized the attention had shifted away from him. Behind the girl, the sound of slow movement broke the quiet. The man by the motorcycle looked down at his vest and the side of his bike. Mud streaked across both. He did not react right away. He didn't shout. He didn't rush forward. Instead, he took a calm breath and lifted his head. The boy noticed him then. The man was tall and solid, his presence heavy without effort. The patch on his vest was clear to anyone who knew what it meant. The boy's smile vanished. His friends stepped back without being told. The girl stood between them, still unsure of what to do next. She felt small, exposed, and overwhelmed. She slowly turned, realizing someone else had been pulled into this moment with her. The air felt tense, charged with something serious. What started as a careless joke had become something much bigger. The boy swallowed hard, finally understanding that his actions had reached far beyond what he intended. No one spoke. The road noise returned slowly, but the feeling in the air stayed heavy. The girl took a small step forward, unsure whether to leave or stay. Her hands trembled slightly, though she tried not to show it. The man by the motorcycle remained still, his eyes focused on the boy. His silence carried more weight than any shout could have. And in that quiet moment, it became clear that this was no longer just about mud, laughter, or showing off. Something had shifted. A line had been crossed, and there would be no ignoring what came next. The silence did not last long, but it felt heavy enough to press on everyone's chest. The girl stood still, mud drying on her clothes, unsure where to place her hands or where to look. Her face burned with embarrassment, yet her eyes stayed calm. She had learned to hold herself together in moments like this, even when her heart felt like it was racing too fast. The boy shifted his weight from one foot to the other. The dirt beneath his shoes stuck slightly, making a soft sound every time he moved. His friends had gone quiet. One of them stared at the ground. Another pretended to check his phone, though his hands were shaking. The laughter from earlier felt distant now, like something that belonged to another day. People nearby watched without saying anything. Some wanted to step in, but didn't know how. Others stayed frozen, unsure if speaking would make things worse. The road kept moving. Cars passed by, drivers unaware that something important was unfolding just a few feet away. The man near the motorcycle finally took a step forward. It wasn't fast or aggressive. It was slow and controlled. The sound of his boots against the ground was clear in the quiet. He wiped a bit of mud from his vest with his hand, then glanced down at the streak left on the bike. He let out a steady breath, as if reminding himself to stay calm. The boy's face drained of color. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Words that once came easily now felt stuck. He had expected to feel powerful. Instead, he felt small. The man looked past him for a moment, his eyes resting on the girl. His expression softened slightly. He nodded once, a small gesture that seemed to say he had seen what happened and that she wasn't invisible. The girl noticed it. That simple look helped her breathe a little easier. Then the man turned his attention back to the boy. "You think that was funny?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. The question hung in the air. It wasn't loud. It wasn't threatening. But it carried weight. The boy shook his head quickly. "I didn't mean," he started, but his voice trailed off. "Didn't mean what?" the man asked. "Didn't mean to hit her? Or didn't mean to hit me too?" The boy swallowed hard. He glanced at the girl, then back at the man. His friends took another step back, creating space between themselves and the situation. "I was just messing around," the boy said quietly. The man looked around at the crowd that had gathered. "Does this look like a game to you?" he asked. No one answered. The girl shifted slightly, wiping her hands on her jeans even though it didn't help much. She wanted to disappear, but part of her also wanted someone to say something, to acknowledge that what happened wasn't okay. The man noticed her movement. "You all right?" he asked her. She nodded slowly. Her voice felt tight, but she managed to speak. "I think so." That was enough for him. He turned back to the boy. "You owe her an apology," he said. "A real one." The boy hesitated. Pride battled with fear inside him. For a brief moment, it looked like he might refuse. But the quiet around him felt too heavy. Too many eyes were watching. And the man standing in front of him wasn't going anywhere. "I'm sorry," the boy muttered, still looking at the ground. The man shook his head. "Not like that. Look at her when you speak." The boy slowly lifted his head. His eyes met the girl's for just a second before he looked away again. "I'm sorry," he said, louder this time. "I shouldn't have done that." The girl listened. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. She simply stood there, letting the moment pass through her. The apology didn't erase what happened, but it mattered that it was said. The man gave a small nod. "Good," he said. "Now remember this feeling. Remember how fast things changed." The boy nodded quickly. One of the adults nearby finally spoke, suggesting the girl clean up at a nearby shop. Another person offered tissues. The girl accepted them with a quiet thank you. Her hands still trembled, but she felt less alone now. The man stepped back toward his motorcycle. He picked up his helmet and glanced once more at the boy. "Choices follow you," he said. "Make better ones." With that, he turned away. The crowd slowly broke apart. Conversations resumed, though softer than before. The boy and his friends walked off without another word. The girl stayed for a moment, taking a deep breath before continuing on her way. The mud would wash off, but the memory of this moment would stay with everyone who witnessed it. The girl walked away from the dirt lot slowly, her steps careful as if the ground might surprise her again. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because of the mud on her clothes, but because of the emotions sitting quietly inside her. She kept her head up, though her chest felt tight. People passed her without saying much, some offering quick looks of concern, others acting like nothing had happened. That mix made her feel strange, like the moment mattered a lot, and not at all at the same time. She reached a small shop a short distance away. The owner handed her some paper towels and pointed toward a sink around the side. The water was cold when she turned it on. She scrubbed at the stains gently, watching brown streaks swirl down the drain. Some marks faded quickly. Others stayed, reminding her that not everything disappears right away. As she cleaned, her thoughts drifted. She replayed the moment again and again. The shout, the splash, the silence that followed. She wondered why people thought it was okay to treat others like that. She wondered how someone could turn another person into a joke so easily. When she finished, she looked at herself in the small mirror by the sink. She didn't look broken. She looked tired, but steady. She straightened her shoulders, took a deep breath, and stepped back outside. Across the lot, the man with the motorcycle was still there. He stood beside the bike, adjusting something near the handle. The mud had mostly been wiped away, but faint marks were still visible. He noticed her approaching and paused what he was doing. "You good now?" he asked. She nodded. "Yeah. Thank you." He gave a small smile. "Didn't do much. Just didn't like what I saw." She hesitated, then spoke. "Most people just look away." He leaned against the bike, thoughtful. "Sometimes it's easier to pretend things don't happen. Doesn't make it right." They stood there for a moment, the noise of the road filling the space between them. The girl felt calmer than before. Not happy, but steadier. Like she could breathe again. A car pulled up nearby, and a woman stepped out, glancing around. She looked at the girl, then at the mud stains still on the ground. "Everything okay?" she asked. The girl answered before anyone else could. "It is now." The woman nodded, satisfied, and went on her way. The man picked up his helmet and glanced at the road. "You heading home?" he asked. "Yes," the girl said. "Good," he replied. "Don't let today make you smaller." Those words stayed with her. She thanked him again and continued walking. With each step, her body relaxed a little more. She sent a quick message to someone she trusted, saying she'd be home soon. She didn't explain everything. Not yet. Back near the dirt lot, the boy and his friend sat farther down the road. The mood around them had changed. No jokes. No laughter. Just quiet. One of the friends finally spoke. "That was stupid," he said. The boy didn't respond. He stared at his shoes, still marked with dried mud. His mind replayed the man's calm voice and the girl's steady silence. He hadn't expected that reaction. He hadn't expected to feel ashamed. Another friend kicked a small rock. "You didn't have to do that," he added. "I know," the boy muttered. They sat there for a while, saying nothing. Eventually, one by one, they drifted away, leaving the boy alone with his thoughts. He walked home slowly, avoiding eye contact with anyone he passed. Every step felt like a reminder of what he had done. For the first time in a long while, he questioned the image he tried so hard to show others. Tough. Funny. Untouchable. It all felt fake now. Later that evening, the girl arrived home. She took off her shoes at the door and placed her bag down carefully. Her hands still smelled faintly of dirt, no matter how much she washed them. She changed clothes and sat on her bed, staring at the wall. When someone asked how her day was, she paused before answering. It was hard, she said honestly. She didn't go into details, but she didn't hide the truth either. As night settled in, both the girl and the boy lay awake in different places, thinking about the same moment from very different sides. One thought about dignity and strength. The other thought about consequences and regret. Some moments are small in time, but heavy in meaning. This was one of them. And though the day was over, its lesson was only beginning to take shape. The next morning arrived quietly, like nothing unusual had happened the day before. The sky was pale and clear, and the air felt cooler. Life moved forward the way it always did, even though something important still lingered beneath the surface. The girl got ready for her day with a calm focus. She chose clothes carefully, not to hide herself, but to feel comfortable. When she stepped outside, she paused for a moment, breathing in the fresh air. Her body remembered the tension from the day before, but her mind felt stronger. She reminded herself that she had done nothing wrong. As she walked, she noticed small things she usually ignored. Birds resting on power lines. A shop opening its shutters. People starting their routines. It helped ground her, reminding her that the world was larger than one painful moment. At school, a few friends noticed her quiet mood. Someone asked if she was okay. She nodded and said she was fine, and that was true in its own way. She wasn't broken. She was processing. During class, her thoughts wandered, but she stayed present enough to follow along. Every now and then the memory returned, but it no longer felt sharp. During lunch, she sat with friends and listened more than she spoke. When laughter filled the table, she smiled softly. It felt good to be around people who didn't expect her to perform or prove anything. Across town, the boy woke up late. His house felt too quiet. He skipped breakfast and stared at his phone, scrolling without really seeing anything. Messages from friends popped up, but he didn't respond right away. The confidence he usually carried felt gone, replaced by an uncomfortable awareness. On his way out, he caught his reflection in a window. He looked the same as always, but something inside him felt off. The memory of the girl's face and the man's calm voice returned without warning. Later that day, he passed the same dirt lot. The ground was dry now, the puddles gone. It looked harmless, almost ordinary. But to him, it felt heavy. He slowed his steps, then stopped altogether. He remembered how easy it had been to throw that mud. How quick the laughter had turned into silence. For the first time, he thought about how the girl must have felt standing there. He kicked a small rock and watched it roll away. "Why did I do that?" he muttered to himself. Meanwhile, the man with the motorcycle sat at a small cafe on the edge of town. He sipped his drink slowly, watching people come and go. His bike rested nearby, clean now. He thought about the girl and hoped she was okay. He also thought about the boy, not with anger, but with concern. He had seen that look before. The look of someone who thought being loud made them strong. He knew better. Real strength, he believed, showed up when no one was watching. That afternoon, paths crossed again, though not directly. The girl walked past the cafe with a friend. She noticed the motorcycle right away. For a moment, she hesitated, then kept walking. The man saw her too, and gave a small nod. She returned it. No words were needed. The boy watched from across the street. He recognized the bike and felt his stomach tighten. He considered crossing over, saying something, but fear held him back. He wasn't ready yet. As the day moved on, each of them carried their own thoughts. The girl felt a growing sense of confidence, knowing she had handled the situation with dignity. The boy felt the weight of reflection, learning that actions don't disappear once they're done. That evening, the girl sat with her family. She shared more of what had happened, carefully choosing her words. She didn't want sympathy. She wanted understanding. The response she received was quiet support and reassurance. It helped more than she expected. The boy sat alone in his room, replaying the day again. This time, instead of just feeling ashamed, he began to think about change. The idea was uncomfortable, but it felt necessary. Some lessons take time to settle. They don't arrive with noise or force. They arrive quietly, asking to be noticed. And though none of them knew it yet, the story was still moving forward, shaping something new beneath the surface. Days passed, and the memory of that afternoon did not fade the way small moments usually do. It stayed present, not loud, but steady, shaping how each person moved through their routine. For the girl, life slowly returned to its normal rhythm. She focused on her studies, laughed with friends, and helped at home like she always had. Yet something inside her had shifted. She felt more aware of her own strength. She noticed how she stood a little taller now, how she spoke with more certainty. The experience had not hardened her, but it had made her more grounded. One afternoon, she was asked to help with a small school activity that involved speaking in front of others. Normally, she might have avoided it. This time, she agreed. When the moment came, her hands shook slightly, but she spoke clearly. As she finished, she felt a quiet pride. She realized she no longer wanted fear to decide what she could or couldn't do. Meanwhile, the boy struggled with restlessness. His friends noticed the change. He wasn't as loud. He didn't push jokes as far. When laughter came, it felt forced. Some friends teased him for being different. Others drifted away. Late one evening, he found himself walking near the dirt lot again. The place looked empty, almost peaceful. He stood there for a while, remembering the girl's calm face and the man's steady voice. The shame he felt was uncomfortable, but it no longer made him defensive. Instead, it made him think. He realized that no one had ever really challenged him before. People either laughed or stayed quiet. That silence had allowed him to believe his behavior didn't matter. Now he knew better. The man with the motorcycle continued his routine, traveling between towns, stopping when needed. He thought less about the incident as time passed, but when he did, it was with hope. He believed moments like that could change people if they were willing to listen. One afternoon, chance brought them together again. The girl was walking home when she noticed the motorcycle parked near a small market. The man stood nearby, talking to someone. She hesitated, then decided to approach. "Hi," she said softly. He turned and smiled.
"Hey, good to see you."
"I just wanted to say, I've been doing okay," she said. "I'm glad," he replied. "You handled things well." She nodded, then added, "That meant a lot." They talked briefly, nothing heavy, just everyday words. Before she left, he said, "Keep going the way you are. Don't let anyone make you forget who you are." Those words stayed with her long after she walked away. Across the street, the boy watched. His chest tightened. He hadn't planned to be there, but seeing them together felt like a sign he couldn't ignore. He took a deep breath and crossed the road. "I need to say something," he said quietly, stopping a few steps away. Both turned to look at him. "I've been thinking a lot," the boy continued, "about what I did. I know sorry doesn't fix it, but I want you to know I meant it." The girl looked at him closely. She didn't rush to respond. "I accept your apology," she said after a moment. "But I hope you really change." He nodded. "I'm trying." The man watched the exchange, without speaking. Finally, he said, "Trying is a start. Keep going." The boy exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath for days. "Thank you," he said, then walked away. As he left, something felt lighter. Not easy, but lighter. That evening, the girl reflected on what had happened. Forgiveness hadn't erased the pain, but it had freed her from carrying it. She realized strength wasn't just standing firm. Sometimes it was letting go. The boy went home feeling different. He knew rebuilding trust would take time, but for the first time, he wanted to be better, not louder. And the man rode off later that night, believing that sometimes, one moment of standing up could ripple far beyond what anyone expected. The story wasn't finished yet, but something important had already changed. Time continued to move forward, steady and quiet, the way it always does. The moment that once felt so loud had settled into memory, no longer sharp, but still meaningful. It lived on in small choices, in pauses before words, in the way people looked at one another with a little more care. The girl found herself growing into a new version of herself. Not different in who she was, but clearer. She trusted her voice more now. When someone spoke over her, she spoke again, calmly. When something felt wrong, she named it. She didn't carry anger with her. She carried awareness. One afternoon, she helped a younger student who looked nervous and out of place. She listened without interrupting. She shared a few simple words of encouragement. As the younger student walked away smiling, the girl felt something warm settle in her chest. She realized that strength could be passed on quietly, without speeches or attention. At home, she talked more openly about her thoughts. Not just about the incident, but about life in general. She learned that being honest didn't make her weak. It made her real. Her family noticed the change and supported it, proud without needing to say much. The boys' days looked different now, too. Change didn't come all at once. Some days were better than others. There were moments when old habits tried to return, when jokes almost crossed lines again. But now there was a pause. A thought.
A choice.
He started noticing things he had ignored before. How words landed. How silence could mean discomfort. How laughter could hide hurt. When he caught himself slipping, he corrected it. Sometimes quietly. Sometimes out loud. One day, a friend made a comment that felt wrong. In the past, he might have laughed. This time, he didn't. He said, "That's not cool." The words felt strange leaving his mouth, but also right. The group went quiet for a moment, then moved on. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. Later that night, he thought about how easy it would have been to stay the same. How comfortable cruelty can feel when no one challenges it. He understood now that change takes effort, and effort takes courage. The man with the motorcycle continued his travels. He met new people, passed through new places, and carried his own stories with him. He didn't think of himself as a hero. He never had. To him, that day was simply a moment when silence didn't feel like an option. Sometimes, when he stopped at small towns, he noticed young people showing off, testing limits. He watched with patience. He believed that most people were capable of learning, if given the chance. Months later, on a warm afternoon, paths crossed once more by chance. The girl was walking with friends, laughing freely. The boy stood nearby, talking with others, his tone relaxed but respectful. The man was passing through, stopping briefly for a drink. They noticed each other. No one made a big deal of it. No one needed to. The girl offered a small nod. The boy returned it. It wasn't forgiveness spoken aloud. It was understanding. A shared recognition of how far they had all come since that muddy afternoon. The man watched the exchange with a quiet sense of relief. He saw growth where once there had been tension. He saw lessons that had taken root. As the day went on, each of them went their separate ways again. Different lives, different paths, but connected by one moment that had changed how they saw the world. The dirt lot remained just a piece of land beside the road. Rain still fell. Mud still formed. People passed by without noticing it at all. But for those who remembered, it was more than that. It was a reminder that words matter. A reminder that silence can either protect harm or stop it. A reminder that dignity can exist even in uncomfortable moments. The girl carried forward with confidence rooted in self-respect. The boy carried forward with humility shaped by accountability. And the man carried forward with the quiet belief that standing up, even once, can echo longer than we expect. Life didn't turn perfect after that. There were still hard days. Still misunderstandings. Still moments when people failed one another. But there was also growth. There was awareness. There was the possibility of doing better next time. And sometimes that is enough. Because real change rarely announces itself. It shows up in small decisions. In softened voices. In hands that stay still instead of causing harm. What began as a careless act ended as a lasting lesson. And long after the mud had washed away, the meaning of that day remained steady and clear, shaping lives in quiet, lasting ways.